That's trying to do just that.
Oh my goodness. So you mentioned the expansion of the universe, right? I came from the theologian side, the kind that hasn't contributed in the last 500 years.
Yeah.
I'm trying to contribute now, but I have to say we had what we call eschatology, and it was Jesus is going to fly back on a horse, or who knows, whatever picture you have, on a cloud, and
Muhammad. Yeah.
Every religion has this strange eschatology, the end. But you have a real concrete vision. And is it a doomsday vision?
Well, I've written about the future of the universe, and the answer is it's not going to. It's pretty bad in the long run. It's not going to end well, at least in terms of what people, what you might think it would be. And as I think I told you beforehand, I wrote a bunch of papers on the long-term future of the universe, and discovered I was doing eschatology at the time. I'd never heard of the word. And the point is that ultimately, because the expansion of the universe is speeding up, it's carrying away distant galaxies with it. Space is literally carrying those distant galaxies away with it. And eventually they'll be moving away from us faster than light. It's allowed in general relativity, it turns out. Because they're not moving through space faster than light. That's not allowed. But space can do whatever the hell it wants. And it can expand away from us faster than light. And eventually they'll become invisible. And we calculated that in about 2 trillion years, all the galaxies outside of our own galaxy, or the galaxies that are bound to our galaxy, will have disappeared. And astronomers, there'll still be stars around. So life forms that evolve around stars in what will then be a massive galaxy, because it won't be our Milky Way, because our Milky Way would have collided with Andromeda and a bunch of other galaxies. It'll be a big galaxy. Any civilizations that develop around those stars will develop astronomy and build telescopes and look out, and they'll actually think they live in the universe we thought we lived in 100 years ago, because they won't. In 1925, we thought there was one galaxy in the universe, our Milky Way galaxy, and the rest of it was empty space, static and eternal. And those astronomers will look out and see nothing outside of their galaxy. All evidence of the rest of the expansion of the universe and the rest of the universe will have disappeared. But then, if you wait a longer time, those stars will die out, actually probably merge to form black holes, and then the black holes will evaporate, and there'll literally be nothing. The universe will be cold, dark, and empty. And that's the future of the universe. It's cold, dark, and empty. So it may have begun with a bang, but it'll end with a whimper. And that's the future. And the interesting thing is, actually, since you mentioned eschatology, it is an amusing story that I haven't told very often. I was invited to a meeting at the Vatican, of all places. I don't know how many, maybe almost 20 years ago, at the Pontifical Academy in the Vatican, to discuss basically the future of the universe as seen by physicists, biologists, and theologians. And it was held in the Pontifical Academy where Galileo was kind of excommunicated, and it was quite a fancy thing to be in. And
wow.
And I stayed in the Vatican, in one of the hotels in the Vatican itself, right next to the big St. Peter's, it wasn't amazing. Unfortunately, it was the day that I was there during the election. It was in 2000. I can remember now because I was watching TV in my little room in the Vatican when Al Gore won the election, and then I went to bed, and then I woke up, to catch a plane and discovered that apparently he hadn't won, and it was it was weird. But anyway,
wow.
But the thing that's an aside. The thing that was interesting at that meeting was a total failure, because we talked past one another. Because for the theologians, the far future was the resurrection, and they were thinking thousands of years, or who knows. But for the physicists, the far future is trillions of years in the future, because we know that that there's no evidence the universe is going to collapse in any time scale shorter than that. And so we just had nothing to say with one another, which was my first evidence that really we did have nothing to say with one another. And as I told the theologians there, and I was quite blunt about it, I said the difference between my lecturing to you and you lecturing to me is that you have to listen to me and I don't have to listen to you. The reason being, if you want to be a sensible, quote-unquote, theologian, you have to know what the evidence of reality is, and you have to try and work your myths around that reality. But as a physicist, I don't have to know anything about your myths. So literally, they had to try, and the reason they had the meeting, it was, the Vatican has a pontifical academy, which is scientists who advise. And the point is, they need to know what the current science is so they can manipulate their stories to be consistent with the science. They eventually had to decide retroactively that indeed the Earth wasn't the center of the universe or even our solar system.
It's a hard one to swallow.
They got burned with Galileo, and so they've tried to keep up with the science ever since. So they have to listen to the scientists. But the scientists don't have to listen to the theologians because they have nothing to add. So it was interesting that when I was at this meeting, which was literally an eschatology meeting at the Vatican, we had nothing to say to one another.